Internet, and welcome to the first ever episode of Super Turbocast. I'm your host, Virgil Davis. Alongside me, my good friend, JC.
What's up, guys?
And Kyle Eastman.
Hey, how's it going?
This is a weekly or bi-weekly, we're not sure yet, podcast about your gaming news, opinions on stuff and things. Just pretty much whatever we kind of damn well feel like. How are you guys doing?
Great.
I am really good.
Are you, JC? Are you really good?
I mean, I'm like super turbo good.
Super turbo good.
Like he's
Yes,
making good.
He's making good. JC, if you could do me a favor, will you turn that goddamn heater off? Because it's picking up on the mic.
I will surely try.
Thank you, JC.
Yeah. Turn down for what?
Turn down for what? Okay, so if this is your first time listening, which it probably is since this is the first episode, that would make sense. This is a, as I said, weekly, most likely podcast about gaming news, pretty much just topics about gaming and in relation to gaming and things, and just basically about how many times I can say gaming in one minute
What he's
interval.
trying to say is basically you're going to listen to what we have to say.
About gaming, yeah.
Right.
In case you didn't know, this is a
stuff.
gaming podcast. So yeah, first up, let's just break into the most recent stuff, the Nintendo Direct, the most recent news. A lot of stuff happened, you know. We had the new 3DS announced, for America anyway. It's been out in Japan for probably about 6 months now, ever since August of last year. You know, we are only getting the XL. The Xenoblade Chronicles game comes out, when is that? February?
I think it's April.
Is it in April?
Yeah,
Is it
for
April?
the 3DS remake, yeah, it's coming out.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
April. Now the Wii U, when they haven't announced a date on it.
Right. We got the trailer for the Wii U game, which, did you guys watch that?
It looks amazing.
Incredible. I cannot wait to play that. So what are you guys' thoughts on the Direct in general? Like, what are some things you guys took away from it?
Well,
Let's start with you, Kyle.
Okay. I feel like part of it, you know, I think Nintendo really, their timing, fantastic. I think that especially like how they've handled this Majora's Mask remake in terms of time has been just incredible. You know, they've been teasing it for a while. You know, you had like the mask on Link Between Worlds, you know, and you had some other things that they've teased for a while, and even...
They were really teasing.
Yeah,
it.
and they were like, oh, you know, it's kind of up to the fans, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And then you know, we get that Nintendo Direct back in, October, November? And they're like, oh, yeah, hey, here it is. We're totally making it.
Yeah.
It's coming out in the spring. And usually, you know, you hear spring and you're like, okay, April, May. Awesome, rad. And then all of a sudden, they're like, hey, here comes this other Direct, you know, coming in January to talk about what's coming out in the spring. And, I mean, then they drop that bomb. Hey, look, here it is. And it's coming in a month.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, along with the new 3DS XL, which, you know, some Americans are kind of upset about that, but I mean, you got to look at it from a business perspective.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they really had to extinguish their stock of existing 3DS XL models, and I think America as a territory has proven as the moment the 3DS XL was introduced, it outsold 2-1. I mean, we're Americans.
Yeah.
We like everything big.
Yeah. That definitely has to be why, you know, I assume that we're not getting the normal 3DS model, but at the same time, I can't help but feel, you know, pretty much everywhere else is getting it but us, you know, and it's just, they continuously kind of treat us like second-class citizens. You know, I know I've said that a few times between us, but I thought that the Majora's Mask thing was handled so well. Like, how did they keep that under wraps for this long?
Man,
you know?
I don't know, but it very well handled. And now what wasn't as well handled was the system itself. You know, you saw it, it's gold.
Yeah.
Weird. I mean, yeah, the Link Between Worlds was too, but yeah, the special edition console, excuse me. But it's like, why can't it be purple? Why is there no purple? And also, why was it up for pre-order for 15 minutes and then it was just gone? Yeah,
Nintendo and their supply, they really are not supplying, like, to the demand very well at all, it seems like lately. The GameCube adapter, these consoles, you know, amiibos, that's a whole nother issue on its own. But
yeah, and I do agree. But it's something that, you know, you look back, what was it, like the Super Nintendo? The Nintendo like purposely held back units, and they did the same thing with the 64. Now the GameCube, they tried to.
The Wii too.
They did it with the GameCube, but nobody really bought that system at launch. They were too busy with the PS2. But you're exactly right. I mean, we all got in line and got hyped up for a Wii. Really, you look back in hindsight, like, I stood outside of a Walmart, and I got there at, like, 9 in the morning, and, like, it was such a big deal. My manager paid me for the day so I could sit in line for mine and for his in November And like our Walmart would not even let us inside. Like they made us sit outside because the PS3 launched 2 days prior. Some people got in a fist fight in customer service. And so like, oh yeah, we don't want that happening in the store. My eyelids were chapped. And they did not let us in until 11:55 is when they opened the door and let us in.
The Wii was unreal. That yeah.
So I think they're trying to channel that.
Personally, my thoughts on it, as I said before, I think it's just, frankly, you know, I was kind of a little bit torn. I wanted the new 3DS for its portability because I feel like the 3DS XL as it is not a portable system. I feel like that thing is not really portable. And the new 3DS it's slightly bigger than the the normal 3DS we have now.
It has to be.
And it's actually comfortable to hold. The original 3DS is, looking back, kind of awful.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're not getting it while Europe and Japan are the other two big markets, it's kind of like, what the hell? And they're also getting, with their Majora's Mask console, they're also getting the game packed in, and we're not. And it's just like, why? Why are we getting, the shaft here with these different releases?
I feel like with the Majora's Mask thing, though, especially for America, they introduced pretty early on that Majora's Mask pre-order with the Skull Kid statue. A lot of people went crazy for, and I think honestly for your
American
was
fantastically
market, it was
priced.
$50
$10 for that
for the
statue. Yeah, that's
amazing.
insane.
Yeah, and so I really feel like all those people that pre-ordered that, and they did pre-orders for that game. Like, I mean, it was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so I think all those people that pre-ordered that, could you imagine the mess of like, oh, here's the system and it's bundled in, so everybody go change your pre-orders.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a mess to handle, I feel like.
That's true, but it's just at the same time, it's just kind of, I don't quite
strange.
get it,
I agree.
And Europe always has gotten better treatment with Nintendo specifically. Nintendo of Europe just really seems to get it. Like, did you see that Zelda? I think it's for A Link Between Worlds, maybe. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that. But they got this treasure chest that I think held like the game or something. It was some kind of special edition where like it played the music as you opened it. It was the special edition of it, and like we didn't get it, just like every other Nintendo
I wonder
special
maybe
edition.
if that's like something on Reggie.
I don't know.
I don't know if maybe that guy just, But again, a lot of bigger companies like that, sometimes they just look at numbers on paper, and they don't think, like, especially like I mentioned before. The 3DS XL is selling so much better. But then again, like you said, that 3DS hardware is trash.
Yeah.
And so when even me, like...
It was released in 2011, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, and I bought when it launched.
4 years old now.
Yeah, and then that
you.
August was when the XL came out, and just because of the start and select buttons not being garbage, even though they suck by today's standards,
yeah,
I went and bought that system not only for the bigger screens, but because it was just laid out better.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up is the we kind of touched on it a little bit before, but the Xenoblade Chronicles X trailer. Xenoblade Chronicles was a kind of with Operation Rainfall, I think is what that was called, that brought Xenoblade Chronicles, Pandora's Tower, and The Last Story over to the US. And this is the spiritual successor / sequel exclusively on Wii U, and the trailer dropped in the Direct, and it's just, the scope and scale of this game is really unlike anything I've seen on a console game. The to anyone who's seen it, the last moment where he jumps off the cliff, which is basically it's basically kind of just a exploration trailer. The three main characters, which we don't know yet, are just kind of walking through these different areas, just kind of giving you a feel of the different environments in the game. And at the end of the trailer, he jumps off this cliff, and it's just this. I mean, I can't even convert it into like feet into real life feet in the from the game to real life, but it's just the scope of the game is unlike anything I've ever seen. And I'm super stoked for it. I put about 20 to 30 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles. That's like an 80-hour RPG, and I don't have time for that, these days with work and college and real life things to worry about. But I am super excited for Xenoblade Chronicles X. It's a game I will buy at launch, just to support it, if not anything else. The JRPG is one of my favorite genres. Kyle, I know you also watched. Also, JC has taken a quick break. He might join us later. He might not. But Kyle, what was your thoughts on the Xenoblade Chronicles X trailer?
Man, I thought, first and foremost, I mean, and it's blatantly obvious, man, it was gorgeous. I mean, you look at that, and it really proves, hey, look, hopefully they're not Assassin's Creed 3 in us, but it looks like, it looks like...
Killzone 2 in us.
Right. It's like, hey, look, here's what the Wii U is truly capable of. This is, quote, next gen for Nintendo. And I feel like, the Wii U catches a hard rap for it being, under graphics, or underpowered, pardon me. And I really feel like, it's more powerful than the PS3 and the 360. And people gush about the 360 and its graphics. And it's like, man, the Wii U, I mean, you look at Mario Kart 8, look at the new Smash, and that's all at a smooth 60 frames per second. Nintendo loves 60 frames per second. Look at the GameCube.
They're really embracing it more than any other console right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, the
frames.
GameCube did it. Almost every first-party Nintendo title was 60 frames per second. I mean, it's astounding. The GameCube is one of the most underrated pieces of hardware, and I'm digressing here. Forgive me.
No.
But I do feel like I liken the Wii U to the GameCube quite a bit. I feel like it's going to be a relic that people look back on and they're going to have fond memories of. And the attach rate for that system is incredibly high. It's just not selling, super great, much like the GameCube.
With what you were saying about the GameCube. I feel like that was a truly underrated system. I really liked it. A lot of people don't know that out of the three, I believe it was the most powerful, between Xbox, PS2, and GameCube, wasn't it?
Yeah, well by the time, it's just like anything else. You can take numbers and try and say, hey, this, and that, but it's one of those things. You can take the biggest V8 engine you can find, and if it's paired up with a little crappy 4-speed transmission, guess what? A V6 with a 6-speed transmission geared right, it's going to outperform it. It was kind of the same thing with the GameCube. People saw it, and we all know the PS2 was the most underpowered of the three. It was, but it also had it was a year older console, and that's okay. But no, the GameCube was incredible. I mean, go back and look at Wind Waker, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Sunshine, even the Mario Party games.
Sunshine especially. I went back to that recently and just, even 480p through component cables, that game is gorgeous. Like, that's a game that I would love to see an HD remake of. That would be awesome.
See, and I had that moment here a while back.
Port,
Right. I had a moment like that here a while back where... I was at the store, somebody came and traded in a GameCube, and I pulled out a test disc, and it was Metroid Prime. And it's astounding, like, how good those graphics were. That is quite arguably the best looking game on that console generation. I mean, and it's so smooth. You look at Samus's character model, the backgrounds and the backdrops for that. A lot of, like the PS2 especially, did not have very good render distance. The GameCube, that game could have only worked on GameCube, it's just, that game is so, and I've been talking for a while now, I'm like, man, I'm going to go back, I'm going to play the games again, whether it's on GameCube or the Metroid Prime trilogy, I've got both, and then bringing this thing full circle, the Nintendo Direct, and they're like, hey, look, here comes Metroid Prime trilogy as a download for $20, and if you get it in the first week, it's $10. That's one of the best deals in gaming. Please, if you're listening, which is probably going to be too late at this point, even at $20, go get it.
Yeah. If you haven't played Metroid Prime Trilogy and you have a Wii U and it's $20 right now, I heard that they reprinted it at some point, but I know that the first print metal case is $100 to $150 or something crazy like that on eBay right now. $20 is a steal for these three games. Please do yourself a favor and pick these up. They are, like he was saying, it's in my opinion, definitely the best looking GameCube game, on the system.
Yeah, no doubt.
The just that opening scene with Samus and just her character model.
The spaceship too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man.
It holds up so surprisingly well when you compare it to, other, like, if you pulled out a PS2 right now and hooked that up and played, practically anything on the system, there's nothing, I am confident in saying there's nothing on that system that would hold up as well as Metroid Prime on the GameCube.
Yeah,
sure.
I agree. And you have a lot of people, the Xbox fans, and I was an Xbox fan as well. I chose the Xbox over the other two consoles, and if I had a DeLorean, that'd be my first thing to go and correct. Like, that'd be the first thing. But anyways, not that the original Xbox is an awful system. It just, I missed out on some great games.
That Mountain Dew.
Yeah, that Mountain Dew, though, which that's, a piece that I really enjoy. But you look back, and so many people remember Halo, and they remember that opening shot of the Pillar of Autumn, and you had, like, the asteroids crashing into it, and Keyes talking to Cortana. And it was a great opening for a game. But I go back and look at that now, and I'm like, especially, like, their faces and character models,
right?
It does not hold up remotely. Which part of that, too, is Metroid Prime was smart in the fact that you didn't have any actual, like, faces hardly until you get Metroid Prime 3.
That is true. That's something that Metroid, with Prime, she had the helmet on all the time. So,
dude, and how awesome is it? You can see the silhouette of her face, or
when you do that,
and it reflects and stuff. Like the charge beam, is that what it is?
Yeah, the charge beam.
You can see her reflection.
Little details. I feel like Metroid Prime did that very well. The little details of that game.
Right, and going back to those downloads, I mean, I've already picked up Mario Galaxy 2, and
after that it was Punch Out. Mm-hmm. Then is it Metroid Prime?
Metroid Prime. Yeah, Metroid Prime comes out the 29th.
So there were 3 or
yes.
Okay.
3 of them, and they were all a week apart, and Nintendo even said there's much more to come, but they have not said what games and what release dates. But this goes to tell me that they said they found a process to port Wii games to the Wii U, and it is a little bit it's apparently pretty easy for them to do. So I'm assuming that they're going to make this more of a habit, in the future with future, because the Wii, for what it was, third-party games, a ton of shovelware, a ton of garbage, but first-party titles, some of the best. And I think the controls kind of held it back in some degree, but that's another thing that I feel like Nintendo got right on this to a degree, without going full HD remake on it, is that any game that used the classic controller works on the gamepad, which in this case it's only Punch-Out. But even then, still, it's still a step in the right direction.
I didn't even think about that. That Punch-Out is the only game that can do that.
Right.
That's kind of a shame. But yeah, I wish that there were, like, in the future, if they do release more Wii games that do use the classic controller, it would be awesome to just lay in bed with the gamepad and play, one of the classic Wii games.
Yeah, and that's what they were saying to do for sure. So, like, I doubt they would do this one, but say Brawl. Or Xenoblade Chronicles, which I think
that would be
awesome.
There are so many people who haven't played that game because of how rare it was, because of how hard it was to find. And I feel like that they maybe won't do that because of the 3DS release.
Yeah, I agree.
That's another thing. I don't think they showed any more gameplay of that title specifically, but that's related to Nintendo, so we can talk about it. I really am skeptical of how well that game is going to work on the new 3DS. That game has such a crazy scope. It honestly has, if maybe not as much, maybe just slightly under the scope of Xenoblade Chronicles X. So imagine that huge scope on a 3DS. That's, even with the new 3DS's hardware, that's going to look, they're going to have to make some, they're going to have to cut some corners to make that work, even on the new 3DS. And I'm really skeptical of how well that huge open, setting is going to work on a tiny screen, even on the XL's bigger screen. I'm really
I see where you're coming from there too. And yeah, I agree that there's going to be some corners cut. But my thinking behind that too, though, is that, man, March, April, the 3DS will be 4 years old. And so where we've gone in mobile computing in 4 years. I mean, you think right now in terms of cell phones, here we are with the iPhone 6. Back then, that was, what, a 4S? iPhone 4, 4S. You look at the difference between computing power. So if you apply those same things, I mean, I feel confident, and you have to realize, too, how underpowered the Wii was compared to everything else of that generation. I mean, it was a glorified GameCube, which the GameCube was amazing, but it was amazing for 2001 to 2005.
The Wii was even supposed to be like just some kind of attachment or accessory for the GameCube. That's one of the reasons the hardware is so similar. I don't know if you had ever heard that. And it's something like that. It's probably not exactly correct, but it was something like that. That's why those two consoles, really graphically, there's no real difference. It's like Nintendo just pushed the pause button for a generation while everyone else got the heads up on them.
Yeah, and I think that's gotten them so far behind in terms of graphics that people look at the Wii U and they're like, oh, it's a Wii. But I do feel like this next generation for Nintendo, is going to be kind of a make or break as far as, do you want serious gamers to take you seriously?
Yeah.
One more console like that, and then that's it. They've already lost enough credibility with your serious gaming crowds. And I'm a Nintendo fan. I love what they're doing. I think the Wii U is a step in the right direction in most regards.
In definitely some ways. Honestly, I feel like what Nintendo needs to do, I know that for 10, 15 plus years now, their thing has been to be different. But they need to step away from that. They need to be just as good and powerful as the PS4, PS5, whatever the next generation console is for Xbox and PlayStation, and just be. I mean, imagine a Nintendo console that is as powerful as the PS4, and as accessible and easy to port games to. So you have the, Assassin's Creed Unities, the, those new titles, those new third-party titles that look just as good, but you also have those first-party titles, I mean, imagine, PlayStation, sure, they have their Uncharted's, their God of Wars, but you put the next generation Wii, the next generation Nintendo console against the next generation Xbox console, and they're both third-party wise equally as, as viable, but you have those Nintendo first-party titles on there, that would be incredible. And I feel like the gamepad that took away and made it, a lot harder to port to, because they had to put some kind of functionality into the gamepad. And with look at Watch Dogs. How long did that take to come out? That came out, and it was just a fart in the wind, basically. No one gave a damn.
Yeah, well, and part of that, too, is that Watch Dogs was some broken promises that by the time, even if it had came out a week later, even the Wii U crowd wasn't just super stoked about that game. But I think I'm not too concerned about Nintendo's next console being like as powerful, because I feel like we've reached a point in consoles, even with the PS3 and the 360 to a degree, that those consoles are powerful enough you can have those big open scope experiences and it still be great. But I think the big issue is, like you touched on, was it needs to be easier to develop for. Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing. As a developer, as a business, why in the world would I go, okay, I'm going to take more time to develop for this console and not sell near as many titles, when I could take a quarter of the time, make it so much easier on my team, and yet sell 10 times the units, And
I think a part of that is being as powerful, because,
or at least close.
Or at least close. And that's why I go back to the different thing. Nintendo needs, that model just doesn't work anymore. It's just PS4 and Xbox One are as close to each other as any console, ever, probably, as any console generation ever, PS3 and 360, they had their, pretty glaring differences, especially starting out. The 360 had much better third-party titles as far as ports go. But now the PS4 and Xbox One, aside from the Xbox One's slightly weaker GPU, they're RAM. Practically, and RAM, they're basically the same system. And I think next generation, honestly, it'll be even more of that, even ramped up a little bit. So if Nintendo comes out with another different system that they have to, it's what you were saying with porting. Why on earth would someone, porting to PS4 and Xbox One, making those two versions, I'm not a developer, I don't know. But I know it's not much harder than just, putting two different codes on two different games with the different, button textures for each game. Right. Whereas on the Wii U, it's a different, it's a hugely different GPU. It's a hugely different CPU. It's weaker. You have this huge tablet that no one really wants. And, you have to do something for that. And lastly, before we move on to our next topic, the Fire Emblem trailer kind of dropped over the Direct. It started off with kind of this super. Honestly, I was almost, it seemed kind of like it could be a Wii U game, which I would not be against at all. A lot of people seem to really like Fire Emblem on portable though, so. For a lot of people, many are glad that it is for the 3DS. But it starts off with this kind of CGI trailer, and then it goes right into the gameplay. We don't see very much, but I can say that feet are confirmed, so that's awesome, because Awakening, that was my complaint as well as, many other people's complaints on the internet that feet were not a thing in that game and everyone just kind of stood on peg legs, which kind of took you, especially when you have a dude with an axe who runs up, when they have to run up to someone to attack, and he just kind of like hops around on his little peg legs before he attacks someone.
They're
it's
all
kind
pirates.
they're all pirates basically.
I mean, problem solved. There's no mystery there.
Yeah. So a new Fire Emblem game. Really the only difference I saw in this one as opposed to the last one is there's a kind of a cool transition between the over map to the actual fighting, to the actual battle. That seemed to be kind of more seamless. Also, there seemed to be it was much more heavily like ancient Japan, like ancient Japanese culture influenced. There seemed to be a lot of different cultures at work as far as the influence goes in this game. I'm super excited. I loved Awakening. I never got around to finishing it. Maybe I'll do that before the new one comes out, but I've been a long time Fire Emblem fan ever since the very first, the 7th one, but our first one on the Game Boy Advance. I just absolutely adored, and I still don't think they've topped that one. But I'm super stoked for this new Fire Emblem on the 3DS.
Yeah, I am too, man. And I do think that, like you said, people definitely adore this series, and they definitely take a liking to it better on handheld. And I think part of that is because it is one of those games that's built around a handheld. It's very, here's one mission, here's the next mission. It's pretty easy to put up and down and pick it back up and pick up where you left off. The other thing, too, is Fire Emblem isn't a very graphically demanding game, especially because of the overworld.
Yeah.
So it's one of those games that, don't get me wrong, would be awesome on the Wii U with the gamepad, being able to control the battlefield and all that. But back to our previous conversation, I think that they're probably looking at this going, Fire Emblem Awakening sold crazy units on 3DS, I'm assuming.
I think the best-selling Fire Emblem in the series history.
Which wouldn't surprise me. It was much more accessible.
Yeah.
But also, for the sequel, look at your install bases. There's a lot more 3DSs out there, and there's nobody who owns a Wii U that's played Fire Emblem on that console. So, I mean, to me, it does make sense to put it on the 3DS. I am really glad that they're not... I think they've kind of said that there might be some kind of exclusive functionality with the new 3DS, but it doesn't look like it's going to be exclusive. So far, the only games that are exclusive to that has been Xenoblade Chronicles, and then is Monster Hunter? I feel like Monster Hunter 4 might be exclusive to that console, too.
No, I think it's also on the 3DS. I know it does have the camera controls, but I believe, same as Majora's Mask, you can use a Circle Pad Pro, if you so choose. Xenoblade Chronicles 3D is, I think, currently the only exclusive for the new 3DS. And even that doesn't come out till, like we said earlier, April. So, honestly, going back to the new 3DS discussion, there's not a whole big reason, to get a new 3DS at launch, unless you're just a diehard, you play your 3DS all the time and you want, the faster CPU, the faster OS. But, yeah, I know I won't be picking one up right at launch because... like I said earlier, I think I touched on it. I really wanted the normal 3DS. I was debating between the two, and my choice was kind of taken away from me. So.
Right. Well, but I think too there'll be a lot of those people that have a 2DS. 2DS especially, or even especially the regular 3DS model. That like we talked about, that 3DS hardware is pretty crappy compared to what we have today. And there's going to be
especially
those people.
Next to the Vita. It's a joke.
It is. It's a joke, to put it nicely. And I think even the new 3DS is still going to be a joke compared to the Vita. But I'm sorry, you go to compare game libraries, and that's where your money lies as far as going to a broader audience. Mm-hmm. I play my Vita a lot more. I prefer the games on my Vita a lot more. But the 3DS has really nailed that broad appeal. It doesn't really. It's got its niche games, but it's not all niche games.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to Fire Emblem. It looks great, and like you said, there's finally feet. Awakening was fantastic.
Feet confirmed.
Yeah, feet are confirmed. TM.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, this is it, first place. But but I do think that was a surprising announcement too. Don't get me wrong. Awakening has been out for a couple years now. It came out like February-ish of 2013. Did it not?
I think
It wasn't a 2014 game. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't think. I think
it's 2013. It was an
maybe 2 years
early
down.
2013 game. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's a couple years. I guess that's about right.
Yeah.
You know.
It was kind of out of left field, though. I didn't
Yeah.
really expect a new Fire Emblem. I definitely welcome it. As I said before, I really do adore the series, and I think Awakening was a great entry in the series. I hadn't played a game in the series since Sacred Stones on the Game Boy Advance. I didn't have a GameCube. Well, I had a GameCube, but I couldn't really get any games for it at the time. So I missed out on Path of Radiance, and then I missed out on Radiant Dawn for the Wii because I wanted to play Path of Radiance first. So yeah, this is the first one I had played in years, and it felt so at home on the 3DS. And aside from, I thought that the graphics specifically of the actual battles were just kind of gross. Like,
Yeah, the graphic wise as a whole, which even back then though, developers didn't. I mean, the 3DS is it got a little more juice than the DS, but
Yeah.
I think I think that game to some degree was developed for the regular DS. The character models alone show that to a degree. Maybe very early on they decided, hey, let's move this up, but there's no way that they looked at that and said, this is the pinnacle of graphics on the...
Yeah.
3D. Which those cutscenes, amazing.
But yeah, those cutscenes are awesome, and of course those I'm sure are pre-generated.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it could have been maybe developed for DS, but when you think about it, there's no way with how closed those fights are that's the best that the 3DS could do. We've seen much better in more open games like 3D Land or World. I get those.
Land.
3D Land.
Always think of Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. Land is the
Right.
is the handheld version. But my thought too is that even whether it was in development for the DS originally, which that's a pretty far-fetched theory. Probably what was more likely was time constraints, that they really need to push that thing out. But then again, we're in a hurry, so let's just not put the feet in. Like some idiot was sitting there on his desk and like his hand rubbed across the paper and erased a foot, and he's like, let's go with it. Let's do it. That'd be way cheap. That'll save us 15 cents per character model.
Yeah. And I mean, we're also not developers, so who the hell knows what that decision was. I have to assume that the reason that I feel like there's no way that the fact that there are feet in this one that it's just a coincidence. I feel like they had to have heard.
They heard the internet.
That
The people on the internet, speak louder. We can't hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very excited. I think it'll be great. We don't know a lot. We don't even know the title in America. In Japan, do you know what the Japanese title is?
What's that?
Fire Emblem If.
Yeah, I think the new one is probably been called the New Fire Emblem.
Yeah, new Fire Emblem.
Yeah, the New Fire Emblem.
In quotations with the
Yeah, with the little sparkles.
New Fire Emblem.
It'll
be like Super Turbocast.
Super Turbocast.
Super 3DS would have been such a better name. Just to go on.
Super 3, yeah, without question. That's what they should have told you.
Back on the kind of like, I was talking about how I'm upset that we aren't getting the new 3DS.
You were just really upset about that.
I am. I'm really upset about it. I do think I wholeheartedly believe that we will get the normal new 3DS eventually.
I think the market demands it. I think it's strictly a financial decision on Nintendo's part.
I think the way maybe they're envisioning it is the 2DS, was surprisingly successful.
Yeah, well, and that was,
I think
that was
the way
surprising. Like Nintendo has handled announcements since they switched to this direct, way of delivering news. They have been brilliant with stuff like that, and the
Nintendo
2DS
Directs
was
are
the
brilliant.
strangest announcement of the past handful of years, and yet you look at the thing and you're like, there's no way, and you put one in your hands, you're like, this thing is surprisingly comfortable and usable. I mean, triggers especially, those triggers are money.
Yeah, and for people with bigger hands, it's a lot nicer. But
yeah,
I think maybe the way they're envisioning
like an angled grilled cheese.
Like what?
An angled grilled cheese.
Like an angled grilled cheese.
Who doesn't love that? All you need is some tomato soup.
Just dip that 2DS in some tomato soup.
There you go.
But I think maybe the way they're envisioning it as, most adults are probably going to get the XL. And so the 2DS is probably taking the place of what the 3DS was. The kid.
I think
basically, children get 2DS, adults get the XL. And there you go.
And the end, yeah. And I agree with that, especially for right now. Like, your only exclusive is Xenoblade. That's not going to be a game that an 8-year-old Timmy is going to want to pick up and go crazy with. But I do agree with you completely. I think that they're phasing out the 3DS with the 2DS. It's easier. It's simpler, too. For Americans are not the greatest with catching up on stuff like that, especially Nintendo's nomenclature. And I'll be honest with you, too. In my line of work, don't get me wrong, the 2DS, it's all exposed. So I've seen more scratch screens on a 2DS than handhelds since the Game Boy Advance. That's Nintendo's. Well, I guess the Game Boy Micro, but it had replaceable faceplates or interchangeable faceplates. Pardon me.
Kind of interesting that kind of came back with the 3DS that we're not getting the new one anyway.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I think that's how they envisioned. I think they really had a vision for the Micro that just didn't work out.
Yeah, I agree. But back to the 2DS, I cannot tell you from not only the 3DS, but any of the other DS models. In fact, I could not buy a 3DS XL today because of this, but that hinge being busted. Kids are rough on those, and when they're closed, great. But when they're open, that first person to step on that thing, that's it. Hasta la bye-bye.
Yeah. But I do think that as time goes on, I don't know what the next DS or the next Nintendo handheld will be, but there will be a time where new 3DS is the standard, so the 2DS will become outdated, and I think they'll have to I highly doubt they will introduce a new 2DS, Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, and I could be completely about this, I'm almost certain the 2DS is just not a thing in Japan. And maybe even in Europe. I think it's possibly... I'm almost certain it's not in Japan. And it may be an only American Europe thing. And I'm thinking it may even be just an only American.
Well, and it might be one of those things, too, that for right now they're trying to extinguish their stock. Doing the same thing with those... we saw those price drops over the holidays, where GameStop had the 3DS XLs at $169. And that was writing on the wall. We knew that this announcement was coming soon. And I think the same thing. I think $129 is a great price point. It's cheap. And...
For the 2DS?
For the 2DS, yes, sorry. And so I think that either option A... Here's my theory. Either A, they're trying to extinguish that stock, and then, hey, here's the new 3DS, and we'll have those for 3, 4, maybe 5 years. Handhelds, usually have a smaller lifespan, so I'm saying 3 to 4 years. Or, in typical Nintendo style, about every 2 years, that they just, hey, we stick with the 2DS and the new 3DS XL for about 2 more years, and then after that, boom, here's our next handheld.
Yeah,
because handheld, again, I mentioned earlier, mobile processing is going huge. I mean, you look at devices like they were talking about the processing power of the Apple Watch, and I forget what the actual numbers came out to be, but like it was just as powerful as cell phones were like a year or two ago, and it's a watch. It's like, man, that is so crazy, and that's probably as big around. That chip's probably as big around as a 50-cent piece. You mean to tell me they can't put that in a DS? And make it, much more powerful. I mean, you have quite a bit of real estate there to work with. So I feel like we're probably at most 3, maybe 4 years away from a launch. Which, granted, the DS just hit its 10-year birthday. It was out for 7 years before they had an announcement for the 3DS. I mean, the DS had a long lifespan. Granted, it sold just as well as the PS2 almost. So there's a ton of units out there. Takes a while to replace that, and developers loved that stupid system. They moved ridiculous amounts of software for that stupid handheld.
Yeah, and with the kind of what I was saying with the 2DS replacing the 3DS, when's the last time you walked into a Walmart or something and saw like a normal 3DS?
It's been a long time.
They're almost non-existent anymore.
Well, you think about...
Like as far as brand new anyway.
Now let's see, the 2DS got announced and it came out like a day, did it debut alongside X and Y or a couple of days before Pokemon X and Y? They were within days of each other.
I almost want to say it launched with X and Y.
Yeah, because they had the bundle where you could get...
Because I remember thinking how genius it was that they released that with X and Y.
And so, I'll be honest with you, shortly after that, even in a town as small as we live in, shortly after that, I didn't see regular 3DS. But even then, like if you really and truly look back and think hard on it, for a while leading up to that, 3DSs, you just didn't see them as much. Retailers didn't stock them. Like I said before, the 3DS XL is a much, much better console, and everybody just flocked to that one. And I think, again, going back to that in America, that's why Nintendo's like, look, here's the new 3DS XL. We don't even want to begin to try and mess with 2DS, the new 3DS, and the new 3DS XL.
Yeah, I'm sure that the XL outsold the 3DS, but with the new 3DS, it's like it's there. Yeah,
it's there.
You have the best of basically both worlds. You have the portability of the regular 3DS, yet it looks, I haven't obviously used one because I'm not from the UK or Japan, but I know it sucks. But it looks, much more comfortable than the layered cake looking junk of the, original 3DS. It apparently has a slightly bigger screen, so it's not as tiny. It's still obviously much
I think it's
smaller
a change about as from the DS Lite to the DSi, which is why I bought a DSi. It was because of the bigger screen. My eyesight
was the regular DSi slightly?
Yeah, it actually is, especially on the bottom screen. It's a noticeable difference, especially once you put them side by side. You look at the bottom screen, the DS Lite, and it's like, how did I ever play this?
But yeah, with that and the it looks like it's much more comfortable. It's slightly bigger, and then you have those changeable faceplates.
Those faceplates are awesome.
That are awesome, and a lot of people here in America went ahead and bought some faceplates because why on earth would we assume like why no one would assume that we just wouldn't get the normal 3DS because they've never done that. They've never done that here in their history of handhelds. Aside from the Game Boy Pocket Lite, they've never done that. And it's really...
it's frustrating.
And
sure.
it's very odd. Even I'm sure the XL outsold it. But, you're telling me the XL didn't outsell the 3DS in Europe? I'm sure it did there too,
Right, no, I agree with that completely.
It's just very strange.
But Nintendo is very weird about their territories too. They
treat them very differently.
Yeah, they do.
They treat us very differently.
Yeah, especially. Yeah, there's got to be a formula, something different. They probably been on your Twitter and noticed that you wanted one real bad, so they're just like, nah.
Yeah, they were like, what, these guys really want it, so let's just not.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. This will be our last topic for the day. This is pretty much just a very Nintendo centric podcast. Turbocast.
Sony and even Microsoft, if you want to make some more announcements, so we'll have some more stuff to talk about, please. It's been pretty dead.
It's January, so it's pretty slow.
Yeah, we have PAX coming up.
But here recently in the news, heard that Club Nintendo is closing. This was very just out of the blue.
Yeah, it was very random, and again, with Nintendo's announcements, the way they've been handling things, man, I feel like Nintendo just has like this huge wall of just random decisions, and they're just throwing darts, and wherever it hits, that's what they're saying. Like,
yeah,
it's been weird, but yeah, I mean, I've been a Club Nintendo member for many years. Love the service. I've never redeemed just a whole bunch of stuff from it, but I've got some pretty neat stuff from there before, mainly downloadable titles for free, which is kind of like a PlayStation Plus thing. And I wonder maybe, with Sony having PlayStation Plus, where you get, 2 free PS4, PS3, and Vita games every month, and Xbox has their games with Gold, where you get, a game or two or whatever on Xbox One and 360. I wonder if Nintendo's trying to cut corners on the physical merchandise and going to, because, they did the digital stuff on there too, and going to a subscription-based platform with unified accounts. We need that.
I think that's the way they need to do it, because when you think about just, with the Smash Bros. Soundtrack, the amount of just, they ship those to everyone who bought the 3DS and the Wii U version of Smash, those are physical. Not only are those physical things that they have to produce, that costs them just to make it. They also have to ship these out to just everyone. Just everyone who did both, and it's like that's costing us nothing, and them, I'm sure a pretty penny. And honestly, what I'm hoping that this is going towards is a more, like you said, kind of a more tied together network. The fact that it's 2015, and if I buy a game on the Wii U, and that console dies, that my games are in limbo, that's not okay. I spent money on those. Those should be tied to some kind of account. Well, and I thought for a long time that Club Nintendo was just going to kind of turn into that, to where, they have the Nintendo Network, but the Nintendo Network really isn't much of anything other than just like a name. I thought they were honestly going to just combine the two and have like your downloads connected to your Club Nintendo account, like they're handling the DLC from you too. That's through the Club Nintendo, but
yeah, and this cross-buy thing that I'll touch on briefly with the Mario versus Donkey Kong,
which is cool.
That's cool. That's a step in the right direction. But I think that's probably a step for that now. And this is going to be a long explanation, and I promise you I'll bring this all full circle. But I bought my first Apple computer in 2007. I know this is a really random topic, but I promise you I'll bring this around to it.
All right.
But when I bought my iMac, they asked me do I want to subscribe to this service called .Mac. Well, what's it do?
No relation to .Hack.
Right, yeah, no .Hack, no relation. But I was like, well, what is it? And it was like, oh, well, you can host your own websites, you can have your own files in it, it'll keep up with a lot of your stuff, in the cloud. And I was like, in the what? And so,
what's the cloud?
Was so neat. Well, it was $80. My grandparents helped me buy the computer, so I was like, oh, it ain't my money. Add to cart, And so, about a year later, that service evolved into Mobile Me. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then they dropped the price or something like that. And when Mobile Me launched, it was a disaster. And it was. Like, in fact, there's like documents of Steve Jobs like cussing out people. Went to the guy, the quality assurance text for that and was like, do this again and you're out of a job. Yeah, super pissed. And that service evolved yet again a few years back into a service that we call iCloud. And it's like to see that grow. I saw it from the very beginning, and I had it from the start. And .Mac was awesome, and now we have iCloud. Everybody knows what iCloud is now, and it's free. Yeah. And I really do feel
for better
like,
or for worse with these these celebrity leaks,
right? And they've already proven like whoever it was that had a hand in that knew these people personally and had access to it to a degree. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But to bring this all full circle. What I'm getting at is
that maybe
I've seen. Okay, I had Nintendo products for years, and there wasn't. And then they're like, oh, hey, on the Wii U, you're gonna have a Club Nintendo account. Oh, okay, cool. And then they update, and they're like, oh, hey, now you can link it with your Club Nintendo account. Okay, so Nintendo Network, Club Nintendo, they're linked. Sweet. So does that do something for me? Well, it shows me like that I've purchased those games on Club Nintendo. It lets me do my surveys and whatnot for extra coins. It does the same thing on 3DS now. And so it's the same kind of thing, I feel like, with these gradual upgrades. And now that they've announced this cancellation, I do feel like that they have a bigger goal other than just, oh, this is costing us too much money.
Yeah.
And then again, it might be paralysis
for
by
something
analysis.
Bigger.
I agree. And I've seen stuff like this especially when it comes to software. And Nintendo, they've proven it with Majora's Mask, like we were talking about. In this Fire Emblem game, honestly,
they're good at keeping stuff.
They're keeping quiet, yeah.
And honestly, that's the thing with Japanese companies and Japanese game development in general. Like they are just so much, just the way that industry works over there. They're a lot better at keeping stuff under wraps than here in America.
Well, and again, this is another strange comparison to make, and it's the same company as before. But back when I first bought my iMac and stuff, and I bought an iPhone at launch, the very first iPhone, and it was like, man, back then. You didn't know what Apple was going to do next. And I mean, you'd be sitting there watching an announcement, and then, of course, Steve Jobs would be like, oh, one more thing. And then it'd be like, boom, here's this whatever it is, and your mind's blown. And it's like, I feel like that's where Nintendo's at right now, where they're throwing stuff out of left field, left and right. And I guess that makes no sense as that analogy from left field and left and right, but forgive me. But you know what I mean? It's crazy, and I love it. I love this random Nintendo, but... calling back to what we were talking about earlier, they do need to quit trying to be so different. It's almost like, you had those friends in school. You had the one kid that was a little different, but he was unique and he was cool, and that made him neat. And you had the one guy that was just so weird that he was sitting on the back on the swings crying. And it's like, that's where Nintendo's almost at right now. Yeah. It's like, dude, you're teetering between those two.
It seems like they're being different for different sake more than being different to try to innovate.
Right.
Like, they haven't... with any single game, proven to me why I need the tablet, to play. Yeah. Like for Smash, if I am not using the tablet, it still has to. I have like a charger for it, and before I couldn't have the charger plugged in all the time. I have like a charging dock type thing. And if I went to play Smash with GameCube controllers or Pro controllers, I just had to have the damn thing on.
Yeah.
So it would sit there and then just die the whole... Like, it's just another screen.
Well, and I will say, too, though, I personally like the gamepad. I think it could be better
I like the
substantially.
gamepad.
Yeah.
I just hate
It's
how
used.
needlessly necessary it is in all
For a
these
lot
games.
of things, yeah.
And the fact that it's not implemented well whatsoever. The fact that if I go
Yeah.
to play Smash and you go to enter your name to make your little profile, a keyboard doesn't pop up on the screen. That's ridiculous. Like, that's such a simple thing to make me feel like there's at least some purpose to this thing. The fact that if you're playing it on the gamepad, you go to type your name, you still have to use like the what's
Motorola Razr.
Yeah, like the
Num
what's it
key.
called? Something 9.
T9.
T9. Yeah,
that was the predictive.
Oh, okay,
T9
never mind.
was predictive.
What was
yeah.
it? What's
You're
the-
too young to remember
Yeah,
that.
apparently. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a number.
Was there not a
keys.
name for the old
I mean, not
Razr
really.
type?
Alphanumeric.
I don't know.
Well, I
But
guess
anyway,
alphanumeric would
that
be a whole
old like
keyboard.
track phone, flip phone.
Yeah.
Push the buttons
Razr.
3 times. The
Yeah.
fact that you still have to do that on the gamepad when you have
It's 2015.
Yeah, you have a stylus. You have the ability to pop up a keyboard. Yet you might as well just be using a controller. When you use
Right,
the
and
gamepad.
I will say though, like the number one thing that made me start liking my gamepad more, Nintendo sells on their website. They sell a high capacity battery for the gamepad. It's $32. It takes it from 3 to 5 hours of gameplay to about 8. 8 hours for a controller charge, not bad.
Yeah.
For $30, I'm so glad I invested in that piece, and it's helped me a lot. The only game I don't use the gamepad for is Smash. But anything else, if I can play it on the gamepad, I do. I like it. I know my hands a little bit further apart.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get as much of that accuracy.
See, I'm the opposite. If it's a game that I can play without the gamepad, I do. The only game I think I do play with it is Wind Waker, and that's
Great.
Yeah, that's a game where it was implemented well, but even then, it's not necessarily innovative. It's just
Right.
you're just taking the map or the inventory and just plopping it down on the screen.
Which honestly,
And while that's
I'm fine
not
with.
awful, it's not necessarily innovative. It's not
Right.
necessarily something I need.
In a game like Zelda, though, what more would you want on the gamepad? I feel
Something.
I feel
I
like
mean-
just being able to take and drag, and say, okay, I want this item on this button, this item on this button, this item on that button, just like the exact same way. Like I look at the gamepad as the bottom screen on the 3DS or DS. That's exactly how I view that. I feel like that's exactly what Nintendo wanted. Was like, here's your bottom screen. Here, the TV
But
is your top screen.
I just feel like that's not necessary for
Oh no, I
console
agree.
gaming,
I agree. I
And
think,
the way they kind of presented it, they talked about all this. I think they call it like asymmetrical gaming or something.
Yeah.
Where like one person is having a different experience from the rest. And I remember them being asked about two gamepad games.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, maybe that'll be a thing in the future. No, that's never going to be a thing because you'll never. That'll
The Wii
just
U just
never
couldn't handle it.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think I think that is the most fun we've had with Wii U is like Nintendo Land.
Yeah,
Or
Nintendo Land's
the
great.
Game & Wario, where you do have the one guy on the gamepad that's running away, and he's having a completely different experience. I think that's where the Wii U truly shines. But back to the gamepad, like you were talking about, for single player outside of inventory management, it really doesn't serve much of a purpose. Multiplayer, though, however, I feel like it does.
Yeah. And look back, if you look back at Nintendo's, and we'll get off the gamepad in a minute, but the most recent, Smash Bros. Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8 was one, I think,
Atrocious use
one
of
of the
gamepad.
worst.
Yeah,
Lazy. It makes me facepalm so hard that if you are playing split screen multiplayer and you have the gamepad and you look down at your gamepad, you still have the exact same split screen as the TV.
Dude,
Why
it's
do you
bad
not
as-
only have your that is why the gamepad, that's the exact kind of moment or situation that the gamepad was made for. Yet you look down at your gamepad and it's just the TV.
Yeah, it's useless. There's no way you can see what's
No,
going
there's
on in
no
your
point.
race.
That's the perfect situation to have. Okay, here's where it would be awesome. I can just look down at my gamepad and I can have my full view while everyone else on the TV, has the split screen.
Right, and not only that, here's the cool part. If you touch the screen, then it turns into steering and you can honk the horn from the gamepad.
You can honk the horn. You
Innovation.
know what? That is a good point.
Innovation.
That is a very good point, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely think that thing could have been used better, explained better. You know, it's one of those things. If you want to be different, great, but let us know what's going on with
But
it.
prove why we need it, and that's my one complaint with the gamepad. They haven't proven to me why it needs to be included in every single one. Why I need to use it with every game, and that's what I'm waiting for. You know, I honestly don't feel like. I think maybe the new Zelda will use it to some extent.
Yeah,
because it's the new Zelda. You know, they I'm sure they feel inclined to, but I doubt Xenoblade Chronicles X is probably going to use it all that much. I'm sure it'll have a map on it. I mean, Star Fox, it seems like is going to be built.
Dude, especially if you have like the starship up there, and then this cockpit view on the gamepad.
Yeah,
like that's from what I've seen. Like that looks like what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
that'd be
killer. Rad.
Yeah,
I just feel like, you know, Sony is great at taking ideas and then kind of just making them not necessarily their own, but kind of improving upon them. And I feel like the relationship they have between the PS4 and Vita is brilliant. as much as people don't really like the Vita or have the Vita, it's so much better than the Wii U to the gamepad.
Yeah,
because it's not necessary. It's an accessory that, hey, if you want this experience, you can have it. Yeah, it costs a little bit more, but the thing is, it still costs you more with the Wii U. The Wii U, as it is, take out the gamepad, would probably be, I would say, $50 to $70 less.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, that's just, I don't know.
Well, I like what you brought up just a second ago, and this was my biggest complaint with the Wii, you know, graphics and everything else aside, is give us a choice. You know, the motion controls on Wii, the gamepad on Wii U, both of those have been the whole, that system's built around that. It's like, man, those need to be the icing of the cake, not the batter.
Yeah.
You know, give me a choice. Give me a choice to go, hey, look, here, this game, you can use the Wii Remote, the Nunchuck, you can use the controller, or the Pro Controller, or you can use, you know, the gamepad on Wii U games. But the issue is back to developer. I guarantee you,
that's the
problem. Nightmare
you can't
to develop.
Exactly, you can't, and that's why I think that
cooks.
Too many cooks will spoil the broth. Absolutely,
broth spoiled. TM.
I feel like Nintendo just keeps trying so hard to be different. Imagine if this new, like if the Wii U, imagine in a perfect world where it wasn't named the Wii U, for one, because that name is awful.
Yeah, it'd be called the Super... You call it the Super Wii.
Yeah. And literally anything but Wii U would probably be better. Imagine if it was as powerful or, you know, close to the PS4 or Xbox One, and it just had the Pro Controller.
Yeah. That Pro Controller is great. 80 hours of gameplay on a single charge.
That thing would be so much more successful. You would be able to have these awesome-looking third-party games as well as these amazing first-party Nintendo games, and it would make it to where the Wii U or the Wii, you know, whatever it would be called, you couldn't get that experience anywhere else. There's no other console where you could play these awesome third-party games and also play these awesome first-party Nintendo titles. You know, there's nothing that would compete with it, and that's where I am hoping that Nintendo's going to go towards. But
yeah, I agree.
I don't know. That's pretty much the majority. You know, there was Splatoon, there was what else was there, you know?
Well, I mean, they showed a little bit of things, but, you know, Splatoon was definitely a feature.
Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, I
think. It's going to have the same as the Canvas, whatever it is. And it's like, I don't want, again, same thing. Give me a choice. I don't want to have to use these gimmicky touchscreen controls. It's innovative, it's different or whatever, but it's like, again, I want a choice. You know? I want the option.
I feel like there's a very thin line with Nintendo between gimmick and innovative.
Yeah.
I was watching you play Mario Galaxy 2, you know, last night, I believe. And, you know, that's a fantastic game. It's gotten 10s, you know.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite games of all time.
But as I watched you play it, and the spin move specifically with the Wiimote, it just made me think, like I said to you.
Is this necessary?
What does wagging the controller do as opposed to just pushing a button to do that move?
Right.
You know, it doesn't really do anything. It's just different to be like, oh, look, you know, it's a motion.
It immerses the player physically.
It's so different and crazy.
Wow.
But, you know, there's more that came out of the Nintendo Direct, and this is pretty much just a Nintendo episode of Super Turbocast. But this, like I said, there's Splatoon. There was like we just said.
Well, we haven't mentioned at all, hardly, Monster Hunter 4.
Right, Monster Hunter 4.
And it's getting a limited edition 3DS XL, and it's packaged with the game.
Yeah, I'm
for
like
another
Majora's
$30.
Mask.
And I think that one looks better than the Majora's Mask one.
Yeah, I agree.
And not that I'm a Monster Hunter fan, but that's the one I'm getting.
Yeah.
For sure.
If I were to get one, that would probably be the one I got, but...
But yeah, never mind. I had something. It's gone.
Okay.
So you're, just I'm not even here right now.
Nope, that's
Leave a
fine.
message after the tone. Beep.
Beep.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh, biscuits.
we just killed it. Anyway, spoiled the broth.
Broth spoiled.
As I said before, I'm your host Virgil Davis. I was joined tonight by my lovely, beautiful, handsome, gorgeous
You're flattering.
friend Kyle Eastman.
It's turbo time.
Well, there it is. Hashtag turbo time.
TM.
TM. JC had to leave us. He had a little grumbly in his tummy. He couldn't join us, but that's all right. He'll be with us next time. You can follow me at Verge of Cerberus on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and basically any kind of social media. Kyle, where can they follow you at, or do you remember your Twitter?
I actually do remember my Twitter handle. It's at Kyle_Eastman.
Kyle_Eastman.
That's about it. I don't exist anywhere else.
You can follow JC at something in the future. We'll hook him up with Twitter.
He ain't.
He's not too into that social media stuff.
Internet's for youngins.
Yeah, for them youngins. But thank you guys so much for listening to the first episode of Super Turbocast. We'll catch you guys next time.